Support the Amigos podcast and keep the Amiga goodness flowing for just $1 a month. Visit our page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Amigos, the podcast about everything Amiga. Amigos is a proud member of the Throwback Network, your home for quality retro podcasts. And now, here are your hosts, Aaron Dowdy and John Bodovkar Schaller. Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm Invisible John.
Hello.
And we are here in Amigos Studios at our third annual Halloween Spooktacular. We're going to be talking about Castlevania.
These are always gold.
These are always our best
They've never
episodes.
been bad. we've never reviewed a bad Halloween game, not one.
Never.
We did Fright Night. We did
Elvira. Both
Elvira games, and the third mystery game we had to look at. Then we also had do we do Ghouls and Ghosts on Halloween?
Yeah, I guess we've done 3. I don't know how we ended up doing so.
Maybe we did 2. Maybe we did like a month of Halloween shows.
Yeah, that must have been it.
Wow, what a month that must have been.
That was the month the podcast almost shut down.
Yeah.
But anyway, we weren't actually originally even going to do Castlevania. We were going to do Night Stalker 2 or something like that. Then we were going to do Dark Seed. Both those games were awful.
Nightbreed.
Darkstalker
2 would be awesome, but I don't think they made that for the Amiga.
Probably not. And so, but anyway, we settled on an awesome game, Castlevania.
It's very Halloween-y.
Yeah. So anyway, before we get into Castlevania, Aaron, what's new in the world? Oh, wait a minute. Before we go into that, the show's going off the rails immediately. We got some feedback. So the first piece of feedback we have is from an Amigos listener.
I would assume so. He listens to another podcast. We've got our lines crossed.
So this is Dasley. This is Dasley. He is from the UK. Darren Hall. He sent us this picture of him sporting his brand new Amigos t-shirt. So thanks, Daz, for sending that in. Daz is a big Redskins fan.
Oh.
So we appreciate that.
Man, bad year for you, dude.
So yeah, Daz, thank you for being my partner in misery with the Redskins. And we got some feedback, too.
All right.
Let me Alt-Tab ceases to work. Mark Kant wrote in. He says, "Hi, guys. Greetings from Scotland. He was an A500 user back in the 80s and early 90s. And now a CD32 user for the past 25 years.
Dang.
Yeah.
It's got a good motor in it, don't it?
He says, enjoying your show, new listener, wondering how I can listen to the early episodes. The iPhone won't let him see any episodes earlier than episode 92. So,
iTunes.
We did figure this out. This has nothing to do with iTunes.
Oh,
it has everything to do with my ineptitude, which is pretty much everything in the
it's
podcast.
Pretty evident.
Yeah. So what happened was the RSS reader hadn't been updated. It was only updated to do the last 25 episodes or so. I've since cleared that, so if you update your RSS feed on any podcatcher, which you don't actually have to do anything, you just have to launch it and look at all the episodes, you should be able to access all 117 Amigos episodes. There's actually more than 117 because we have some unnumbered episodes as well.
You know, this is sort of to the point, but so I was doing some investigation for the podcast, right? And I'm milling around. I'm doing, professional investigative crapola. And I see this thing. It says Amigos Podcast. I'm like, what's this? And I click on it, and it's just some random, place out in the internet void. It's got all of our episodes ready to go. Like listed.
Really?
Like, what is this? It's just like that guy on YouTube. There's just some guy that just started
reposting
our stuff under his name
to get some of that hot ad money that's rolling in.
How disappointed is that guy? But it's weird that you occasionally just. I don't remember sharing our feed or anything with this guy, so I don't know.
Weird.
Who knows? Yeah.
Weird. We also heard from Try to Wave Zod.
Ooh.
And he
what
says
a name, eh?
he's commenting on our Zool 2 episode.
Yes.
And he says both Zools were always crap, then and now. He says one of my favorite Sonic clones for the Amiga is Qui, or possibly Key, the Thunder Rabbit.
Ooh,
It came out late in the Amiga's life, but I love it. Please give it a review. If you do, make sure you get the CD32 version. It's got more graphics and a button for jump.
Have you ever heard of that one?
I have not, so we'll have to check that out. Maybe in our next Amigos Plays session.
You're going to be appalled by this. But I played some more Zool 2 this week. I've been playing a crap load of Amiga. I'm just feeling the flow, right? And so I played some more Zool 2, and I went back and played some more Zool 1. Zool 2 is quite a bit better, and it's not that bad. It's not that bad. There's a lot of interesting stuff you can do. The exploration's nice. It's not that bad.
Okay.
So
you're walking back your earlier.
I'm not walking
review.
it back, but I'm just sort of it's electric sliding it back.
Boogie oogie oogie.
That's right.
All right. Well, that concludes our feedback from last week. So now it's actually time to move on to the Amiga news.
Hold on one second here. Let me get the Gambletron 5000 here. I gotta put on my Lucha goggles for the big match. So, since you're already there, what's the first big thing on there? Let's have you start the show here.
Well, we've got a retro Raspberry Pi case shared by Jonas Rulo here on the Google Plus page. These are, my guess, they're called micro machines. They're 3D printed Raspberry Pi cases. Looks like they have a Amiga, a C64.
Is that got a ZX Spectrum there? Is that an Atari ST?
An Atari ST. Those look pretty good. They look
Yep.
very reminiscent. I don't know what that thing is.
Is that the?
Oh, it's a BBC. Yeah.
The micro. That's what it was.
Yeah, micro. Right.
They're cute. I like the ST looks nice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Those are interesting looking. They did a good job.
Yeah.
But I believe these were pretty pricey. Little ditties, but hey, it's a cool thing to put your Pi in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's see what we've got here that's not site related. One thing I wanted to mention: our buddies over at Indie Retro News are doing a little fundraising. They're up against the wall on their server fees. So if you're feeling the flow, and you use Indie, and I think a lot of people use them. Drop these guys a few bucks because they do it. They're literally the leader for Amiga news, and not just Amiga. But
yeah, I know I'll be donating because
Yeah,
we depend on these guys.
we love these guys.
Yeah. Sorry if you heard that rustling. That was me. I forgot my microphone was attached to my body.
What? You're a green fool. So there wasn't a whole lot of Amiga news this week, but there was a ton of site news. So let's get into that.
Okay.
Right off the bat, let's talk about Kickstart 11. Can you believe there's 11 of these?
It's hard to know.
Now, I was flipping through this today, and it's top shelf. And actually, we're going to do a little bit later on from the magazine. But Neil did a great job. These things have been getting pulled down quite quickly. And, the formatting of some of it is just tremendous. I really like it. I haven't gotten through the whole thing yet. I'm about halfway through, but man, it's a good episode. So, again, Kickstart is the free Amiga magazine, directly available from our page, everythingamiga.com. Hop over, download it. It's in PDF format. Relive ththose glory days.
Don't let them pass you by.
Plus, there are new stuff in there. It's a great mix. Neil is tremendous at it. So I want to get that out there straight. If you haven't gotten it yet, go get it. That's Kickstart. So next on the docket here, we want to talk about Gary's new video. Now, it's funny, he should have put this up. And in fact, Gary's in chat with us right now, the Huck. He has got himself a NewTek DigiView Gold capture device. And this is a good video. Of course, Gary's stuff's always great, very popular. It always is. Look at that. As we flip through it here, he's showing some of his library there. Now, I had a very similar DigiView device to this, and with a color wheel, the whole 9 yards, and it is the goofiest thing you ever saw. Have you ever digitized anything like that, Bo?
I don't honestly know what this thing is.
It's a camera that hooks up that you do basically screen grabs with.
Okay.
Of course, it's to do all the colors. You have a color wheel that you spin, and it'll do different passes of the different color wheel shades.
So is this a camera that you'd put directly in front of your monitor?
Well, you're not taking pictures of the screen, man. You're taking pictures of something else, like a magazine or a photo or whatever you put down there. All right. You got to remember, back in the day, this stuff was. It's funny now we've got these cell phones. As I hold mine up, but I mean,
what is that thing?
It's a cell phone, man. But they all got the camera, digital camera. But back in the Disney, no easy task to get a digital photo. It was difficult. I remember downloading photos off the internet or off the BBSs just because I was like, wow, look, somebody took a picture of like that. That's a beautiful rendered apple, or that's a good looking chick, and they took a picture. It was you were like, I'm looking at this on my computer, and so I know it seems silly, but in the old days, digitized graphics were like, I mean, it was a big deal to get. If you had a big library of these, and everybody would be downloading them. It was cool. So Gary did a good job on that. Gary's stuff's always great. So next, we're going to talk about Dreamcatcher. You want to take this one, Boat?
Yeah. So Dreamcatcher has reviewed another game. This is one. Had you heard of this one before?
I have. I actually loaded it up one time and fiddled with it, but I didn't do much with it.
So this is Lollipop, and this actually I think looks really good.
Yeah, it does. It looked real good. I think Rainbow Arts?
Yeah, Rainbow Arts. So it's
Yeah.
Turrican. Same guy, same outfit. And I think that we need to give this a look because, there are so many poor platformers on the Amiga. To find a good one, amongst a diamond in the rough, if you will, this looks like it might be a winner. It does have sort of a very large, well, it's not very large compared to some of the games we look at, but it's got a significant HUD on it there. But it does look like you've got some inventory management that you're doing, some
You gotta have
items
a
to
big
collect
HUD.
and things.
It's the Amiga way.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll have to check that out. So thank you, Dreamcatcher. Make sure you read. Of course, Dreamcatcher doesn't just review games. He pulls them inside out.
Whew.
Oh boy, is it over already?
Who was that masked man? Woof. It's hot up in there.
It's hard. I mean, just imagine. Mr. Wrestling 2 probably didn't take that thing off for decades, and yet
He did. He was. I love Mr. Wrestling 2. Of all the people you should bring up, he's one of my favorites. As a kid, he was just great.
Yeah.
The Rubber Man, Johnny Walker.
You never saw him without his mask.
Well, that guy left. I just kind of put his mask on my head, and this is just me.
Okay.
That was Lucha Aaron. This is regular Aaron.
So anyway, that's it for the side updates this week.
No.
What?
No, it's not.
What else? What else is there?
Because I myself put some things up.
Oh,
this
I don't
week.
look at your things.
How dare you, sir? So, first thing I put up this week was a look at last week's game, which was Zool 2.
Zool 2.
And Zool 2, like I said, I had a run at it. And again, like I said, I'm not going to rehash what I just said, but I enjoyed it. It was kind of fun. Having of course, I played it a lot last week too.
I like that. You just made that all by yourself.
Have you not seen anything I've done for months? Have you?
I literally never watch your videos.
How
I'm sorry.
dare you?
You're
a horrible amigo.
I'm too captivated by Gary and all of his things.
Well, I can't compete with that. Are you kidding me? So anyway, Zool 2, pretty fun. So I got a wild hair. I was going through our videos and saying like, what was our most viewed stuff? Because I thought, well, whatever we haven't done, I'll make an Amigos play out of it, And so a lot of the most viewed stuff we've got is from Gary, so I can't do nothing there. And then there's some stuff that I've done, or me and you did what was, hardware stuff. And then there's stuff we already did videos for, like I am amazed with like micro pro wrestling and golf. We've talked about some of these goofy things that are TB Sports Football has like tons of views.
Really?
Yeah, and it's the live is the play of it, not the podcast of it. So I thought, man, how bizarre. But amazingly, our very first episode, which had a lot of hits, we never did an Amiga's Play for, which obviously we didn't do those back then, which was Hybris. And I thought,
right.
I love Hybris. I'm going to fire this thing up. So I fired it up, and I was fiddling with Amiga Forever, trying to get a proper output.
I fiddle with the Amiga Forever too.
Well,
you mean the actual program?
Because I've got the
Amiga
Forever software down pretty well, but I haven't got it perfect. And so I ran it. I finally got it to work, and I was like, hey, I wonder what this does. So I switched from NTSC to PAL, right? And I noticed that it ran differently, which it should. Remember we talked about that before with the music from a game we ran. It was running too fast. Right?
Yeah.
This is a common thing in America. So
Now, is this what we've got up here right now? Is this
that
the
is
NTSC?
me running in PAL.
This is PAL.
And you'll notice that it runs. If you watch it for a few minutes, and you can see how quick it's going. And then so I switched over to the NTSC version, which you right there.
Here's the NTSC.
And you'll notice a tremendous difference in the amount in how fast it runs.
Oh yeah.
And it runs. It was a lot more fun. I did a lot better too. As I explained in the video, if you're an Amiga guy in the States, you get used to playing everything in PAL mode, and the screen's all jacked up. So my version of this for the Amiga, the disc version, it was the PAL version, and the screen was slid down, and you just got used to playing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So to play it at this speed was a lot of fun.
It really looks. I mean, it looks like an arcade game playing at this speed.
It does. One thing I liked about it does have sort of a meandering feel to it, and which I don't. I like the PAL version, but I would say it does have a different feel when you're playing at full quick speed like this. So it was just a little crazy experiment I did, but I just basically wanted to play Hybris again. I hadn't played it for a while, and I enjoyed it. I've gotten a method now that I'm going to be cranking out a lot more of these. I've been playing a lot more. I'm really getting into it, and winter's coming, so I'm really feeling the flow this year for the Amiga plays. So
awesome.
I'm going to be cranking out quite a few of these.
We're going to have another multi-platform romp this coming Sunday over at Amigo Studios East.
I think we're going to be, for certain, playing Zool 2 on the Jag, and I think we might dig into some 3DO this time around. I will say fun. I put up the last of our Sega Saturn ventures, which was VR Golf. Mm-hmm. So if you want to see me and Boat, and especially, as I mentioned under the video, my short game needs a bit of work. It was my putting was god awful on that day. So yeah, but that's pretty much. I think that covers everything we released this week.
You can see me again.
Yeah, I know.
I'm back.
Put the mask back on.
I'm like a floating head now. No.
Yeah. So I've got something we're going to try here. Since we're done with the news, right?
Yeah.
So as I mentioned that the new Kickstart's out, Kickstart number 11, Neil's magazine, official magazine of the Amigos. And Neil always has, when it's a magazine, he puts in charts for the games that were out that year. And I thought I'd go over some of these with you and just see what you thought about their place on the charts. And I'm not going to, because you'd never guess these in a row. So I'm just going to go down the top 10 and see what you think about these. And we'll see if there's some here we haven't covered we might want to have a look at.
So what this is from?
This is from January-February of 92. Okay, on the Amiga. And there's also a few others we'll just hit briefly. So number 10 is a game called First Samurai, which we haven't played that one yet.
No. I like samurai games, though.
Number 9, Terminator 2, which I believe that's the gun game, right? And number 8, and this is a game that comes up a lot, and we haven't ever played it. At least I haven't. Megalomania. Did you do that on any Amigas play or anything?
No. Boy, I always think about that being like an old Atari computer
that one over there,
or something like that, yeah.
Now, number 7 we have played, we both really liked. It's surprising. Jimmy White's Snooker.
Oh, yeah. Love Snooker.
Number 6, Alien Breed, right? Number 5, The Simpsons. Now, I'm not sure about this. Is there just a straight Simpsons game?
I don't think so. I think that's Bart versus the Space Mutants.
Well, they've got 2 Bart games on the Amiga. Yeah. I'm wondering which one it is. Number 4, Lotus Turbo Challenge 2.
Hey.
We love that one. Number 3, James Pond 2. Number 2, Heimdall. Remember, we had a look at that one a while back, I believe.
I'm trying to remember
I think it was in the magazine. We looked at it. Now, number 1 I find appalling. Because it's so bad. And I looked at this in an Amiga's play, and it's god-awful. Number one Amiga game. This sunk the ship right here. In February 92, WWF WrestleMania. That game is god-awful.
It can't be that bad.
It is. You do a play on it and see what you think about it. Now, here's something just for fun. Neil also puts in some stuff that's culturally relevant at the time, right? So I'm looking over these movies that were out. I'm not going to go through all these, but I haven't heard of a big chunk of these. See if you've ever seen or heard of these, right? See if you've seen any of them. Okay, do you remember a game? This is the UK charts, mind you, but there's tons of bleed over, right? So in 92, there's number 10, This Is My Life. Nothing? Number 9, I remember hearing of this, but I never saw it. Radio Flyer.
Oh yeah, I saw Radio
Is
Flyer.
that something about a wagon or something?
Well, it's a story about child abuse.
Oh, crap. That doesn't sound fun.
It's not really.
Okay, number 8, the Mambo Kings.
Yeah,
that sounds pretty good.
I remember that.
Number 7, Mississippi Masala. I don't know.
I think that's probably British.
Number 6, The Great Mouse Detective. I heard of
Saw
that
that.
one. Oh, really? What'd you think?
It's good. It's a Sherlock Holmes Disney thing.
Oh, okay. Number 5, Memoirs of an Invisible Man. You ever seen that?
Not seen that one.
Number 4, this was another appalling thing to see on the list. Stop, or my mom will shoot. Remember that one?
I do.
Horrible. Number 3, Final Analysis.
No.
These sound like made up, like Seinfeld movie names, some of them. Number 2, Medicine Man.
Medicine Man. I get that confused with Lawnmower Man.
And then number 1, I have heard of and I have seen, Wayne's World.
Yes. So that is not nearly as obscure as you made it out to be.
Now, one more little thing, and then we'll to bring this to a close. Neil also puts in what was in the top 10 music-wise. And since you're a music guy, I thought this appealed to you. So this is in the U.S. and the U.K.
This was a dark time for music.
Well, there's some good stuff on here. So, and the U.K. chart's much better. So, number 10 in the U.K., Madness. It Must Be Loved. Now, I liked Madness.
Yeah.
Remember them? Wow. Number 9, a band I didn't like, Simply Red. Remember Simply Red?
They were huge in the UK.
For Your Babies. I don't remember that song. And then Bryan Adams, Wet, Wet, Wet. I'm just going to skip through some of these. Michael Jackson, Remember the Time. Opus 3. I don't remember that one. That guy. The Pasadenas, I'm Doing Fine Now. Meh. Never heard of that one. Someone named Shanice. You ever heard of Shanice? I Love Your Smile. The Temptations, you ever heard of them?
Never.
My Girl was at number 2.
I wonder if it's because of the movie.
I guess so. And number 1, and this is one of the reasons I even want to do this whole segment, because I wanted to put forth the love that I had for this song. It's a band called Shakespeare's Sister, and the song is called Stay. Have you ever heard this song?
No.
It is the creepiest song ever made. It's just real loving ballad, and then right in the middle of it, it's a hideous demonic threat. It's the darndest thing you've ever heard. And the video is good, too. So that's the UK charts. I'm not going to go over... the US charts, listen to these names, right? You got Color Me Bad in there. Poor Nirvana's down at number 8 with Smells Like Teen Spirit. I guess they were just getting ready to start their ascent, right? Then you got, I don't know who this is. You got George... Now, ironically, this is on the UK chart. George Michael and Elton John, Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. Which that was a good tune.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, Prince, and this is Prince's down phase, Diamonds and Pearls.
That's not a bad song.
I never liked it. Again, this chick Shanice, she's back.
Wow.
But now listen to these top 2. They had The Temptations, Shakespeare's Sister. That's pretty good. This is what we got. Mr. Big, To Be With You.
That's right. Monster Ballad.
And number 1, Right Said Fred,
I'm Too Sexy.
Yep. That's what we got.
I know this time period very well because I was in 5th grade at this time, and I remember all of that. I remember the movie My Girl coming out. I was in love with the girl in My Girl. It was a great time to be alive. It was a great time to be in 5th grade at Hurricane Town Elementary School.
No, it wasn't. So that was 92. And again, Neil goes on to a ton of cool stuff. He's got what was in the arcades in 92. I mean, you really get the feeling. And 92 was sort of a bad year. No, as I look at those, it's not the best year for movies or for audio. But still, they all can't be winners, right, Bo?
No. All right, well, it is time to move on to our game of the week, Aaron.
The game of the week. So.
Amigos, game of the week. Remember when I used to put in those bumpers?
You did that like, it's funny, I was listening to an old show, and you did that, and I about fell out of the chair.
It was incredibly loud because I didn't know how to balance the audio.
When did we do that?
Yeah,
So this week, we're going to take a look at Castlevania. Now, before I want to preface this, not a review, but a personal opinion. We both had a good idea that this was just trash. All right, I want to leave my suspense. Are they going to like it? No, it's garbage. That much said, there's an interesting... I knew that buried in here would be some interesting stuff. So, and it's a little bit interesting. So,
really solid,
Aaron. Built that up. So, Castlevania was released on the Amiga in 1990.
It was unleashed in the world.
It was unleashed. It was let loose. It was developed by an outfit called Novo Trade. Now, I looked into these guys. I'm going to stop right here just so we can talk about it because we know what they released. So what were they doing? Okay, so Nova Blade, we've already covered one of their games. They did Blades of Steel.
Okay, makes sense. Konami.
We didn't hate, all right?
Yeah.
They did Impossible Mission 2, which is a fairly popular game. And they did Mickey's Jigsaw Puzzle. You know, Mickey Mouse.
Right.
Oh! That's the sound
uncanny.
he makes.
Yeah.
What is that sound anyway? What's he doing there?
He's laughing.
Ho ho! That's his laugh. What's he do when he cries? Ho ho! That's a.
Do you make the same sound at a lower
Every
pitch
time.
when you cry?
That's exactly what I do. I'm sad, boat. I'm happy. And he also did World Trophy Soccer. Ho ho! So these guys, let's talk about. Because I mean, we've got to get into
Trade
them.
is their name, right?
That's right. So first of all, they changed their name around. Let's see when they changed their name to Appaloosa Interactive, which
Appaloosa. That's. I wish I knew what that meant.
I don't know.
That means something.
Now get this. So Nova Trade was founded in 1982 in Hungary. So a lot of the people that worked on this stuff were Hungarian.
That makes sense.
Who'd have thunk it, right? And who else would you get to do the Dracula game than a bunch of Hungarians, right?
Very true. That part of the world.
So they were around for a good while. They changed their name in '96, of November '96. So they were Nova Trade until '96, and they became Appaloosa Interactive. So they had like a couple. They had 150 employees in 2001. They were still cooking.
Wow.
Ponder that if you will, as we look at this game footage. So listen to some of these games they did. They did a bunch of games. I'm just going to name off some of the games they did. Oh, by the way, they flopped over in 2006. So 11 years ago, they finally died, but that's still a pretty good run.
Yeah.
If you consider that they outlasted a lot of really good game developers. So they did The Adventures of Batman and Robin on the Game Gear, which I've actually played. Get this, they did California Games on the Mega Drive. And some of the guys that worked on that well, at least one guy worked on that. They did Contra, Legacy of War, and the Contra Adventure on the PlayStation. Those I remember hearing about those. Get this, they did Echo the Dolphin, and they did all the Echo games. Who'd have thunk that,
Yeah.
right? Again, looking at what we're seeing on the screen
right,
now.
because those Echo games were not bad.
They did Exo Squad, which is one of my favorite cartoons. I don't know if the game's any good. Holyfield Boxing they did. They did Impossible Mission 2 on pretty much all ports. They did pretty much everything on that. They did Karateka. They ported that. They did a lot of dud stuff. I mean, there's a million things on here. I'm not going to go through them all. But one thing they did do, and this is their last game, and I sort of want to play it, Jaws Unleashed. And they released that in 2006. So that's I swear to you, did we talk about Jaws Unleashed? Because I remember we were thinking, why did they do a Jaws game in 2006?
Right. I'm sure that we mentioned that.
So that was their last game before they flopped over. So kind of weird. So the next thing I wanted to do is who worked on this? Who were the individuals? Well, they're not listed on Hall of Light. They're not listed anywhere, but they are listed in the game. So I got their names. I want them to be held liable for these. So, and these are in Hungarian, so I'm going to give this a shot.
Okay.
So you got a guy named Peter Agax. I think he was the artist. It doesn't say what they did, but looking at what the other stuff they had done, I tried to kind of guess. Now get this. These guys had great names. This guy, I think, was a graphics guy. He also did programming. Zoltan Toth.
Oh, man. Anytime you can name yourself Zoltan.
Zoltan Toth.
That's the guy from Big, the fortune teller.
And get this, you know what his nickname was? And he appears in some games under his nickname, Sultan. That's a cool nickname, too.
That is a cool
nickname. But I'm telling you, if your name's Zoltan,
you don't need a nickname.
With that.
Yeah.
If my name was Zoltan, I'd have a T-shirt with it on there.
Just like Wilcox was wearing at the party.
American names are so lame. They
are.
Like I'm Bill.
Bill
that
Smith.
Stinks.
Yeah.
We don't have a Zoltan walking around. So then you've got a guy, and here's another guy with a great name, Josef Molnar, and he spells it Josef.
That's awesome.
Now this guy was a programmer. I think he was a programmer on this game. One thing they don't do on any of their credits is tell you who did the music. So that's one thing I don't know. This guy was a programmer on California Games for the Genesis.
Okay.
So I know that for sure. And then you had a guy here named Tomas Petrovitz, right? I don't know what he did exactly on the game. He's listed in a lot of games as miscellaneous. Mm-hmm. He did work on Blades of Steel, so I know that for sure. And the last guy here And I got this from a whole different source. I was trying to figure out who did the music for this. Now the music is all based on music from the original game, right? So
I don't believe that to be true.
well, that's what now you would know better than me. Now what I read, well, I'll get to the music in a second, but the guy that I think did the music is a guy named Andreas Magyari. Okay. Now, the one thing this guy did, Andreas, is he would create MIDI files that were converted to like the Genesis from a proprietary sound device, sound creation device. So I don't know if he's listed on several sites as the author of the music. I can't confirm it with like any of my usual sources, but what the heck. So anyway, that's the crew that put this together, a bunch of Hungarians. Kind of neat. Mm-hmm. Some of these guys are still working, so more power to them. You can't win them all, and we don't know what. One thing, when you kill these guys on these horrible games, who knows what kind of constraints they were under time.
Right. Maybe they had 2 weeks to do this.
Yeah. Right. So you never know. So anyway, getting back to the game. So this game came out on 1 disc. Again, this came from Konami. We know them all too well. Batman Returns. They did Bill Elliott, NASCAR, Blades of Steel, Double Dribble, which we looked at, Super C, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. Those are all Konami licenses on the Amiga. 1 player, that's it. It runs on the old school ECS OCS, and it's a side-scrolling, I guess, platforming. I don't know what you call it, platforming beat 'em up. Does that sound about right?
I wouldn't call it a beat 'em up.
How would you go on this?
I just go
pin it somewhere.
Yeah, side-scrolling. Just a side-scrolling platformer.
Okay. So this was converted. Now it's funny. This was converted to a lot of stuff. Some of this you would have known. Some of you might not know, right? So you've got your Commodore 64 version, which I actually had a look at. We'll get to that in a little while. MSX2. The Famicom disk system, which I've heard about. The disk version is different for the Famicom than the actual non-disc version. Do you know what the differences are?
Yeah, the Famicom disk system version is actually more of a role-playing game. There's a lot more items and stuff, and it's called Vampire Killer it's a lot more in depth, and a lot of the things that appeared in Symphony of the Night were borrowed from that FDS version of the game.
No kidding. So it also appeared on the NES, of course, and / Famicom, the regular non-disc-based version. A Virtual Console. The PC had a port, which I looked at that too.
I'm sure that was god-awful.
The Sharp X6800, or 68,000. I'm shortchanging it by and
MSX, right? I'm sure it had an MSX port.
I said MSX2.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry. Okay.
And so it was pretty well ported, which I'll be honest with you, I didn't know they had that many ports, honestly. I didn't know Konami was working the PC market either. I mean,
the reason why I remember that is because, do you remember, I don't know, maybe this was after your time, but we used to get these pamphlets at school, the Scholastic Book Fair, where you could order stuff.
No, I had those, yeah.
And there were always port PC games in there, and they were always ports of console games.
Really?
Yeah. And so I remember seeing like Street Fighter 2 for MS-DOS.
I had that.
And Castlevania and Mega Man for DOS. For whatever reason, they had an in with these guys.
If this thing came out in '90, I'm wondering if the DOS version was a booter or not. Probably not. It was probably just straight up DOS. So let's talk about what this game is. And I know you've probably played this a lot more than I have. Tell everyone, if you haven't played Castlevania, what's the scoop of what Castlevania is?
Okay.
The plot and all that sort of stuff.
So you are a member of the Belmont clan, Simon Belmont, and your job, Dracula has reawoken, and your job is to go to Dracula's castle and traverse through it to find Dracula and kill him. The game plays out over a mini-map, sort of like Ghosts and Goblins, where you can see where you've been and where you're going. And you basically go all through the castle. You go through at the end of each stage, there's a little mini-boss. And the mini-bosses borrow freely from, other monster movies. You battle Frankenstein, Medusa. There's lots of different monsters that you can fight. And as you go throughout the castle, there's some role-playing elements. You can pick up different weapons and use them. There's a currency with the items too. You pick up things, and that gives you certain numbers of uses for your weapons. one thing that this was the first game that I ever saw on the console that had a life bar for the boss. Most of the time you hit the boss till his turn starts flashing or whatever.
Right, you don't get to know.
Right. So I thought that was cool. The enemies are, they're varied. The whole game has a really cool atmosphere to it. It's a very gothic sort of thing. Of course, Simon Belmont's weapon of choice is a whip. Although you get several projectile weapons, your main weapon is always a whip.
And it's, of course, you're fighting, as you get these levels, you're fighting a bunch of crazy monsters. You've got Medusa heads, and you've got bats, and you've got zombies, and junk like that. So I know this game was it's sort of almost legendary on the NES, right? I mean, this was a big deal in the NES. Yeah. I played this when it came out, and I didn't like it, and I still don't like it. I've never understood what the fuss was about. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the idea of a game where you take on Dracula and monsters and stuff, but the whole idea of going around and whipping sconces and getting stuff out of them, it just seemed like it was a lot like the Zelda. I say probably the Zelda. It's like you go around and everywhere you go, you dig a hole or whatever, pull up plants. I don't get it. I've never understood. It didn't make any sense to me why you would even do it. I know you're going to rebuke me somehow, but I didn't like having to go and whip everything I saw.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you were going to introduce power-ups into this game, how would you do it?
Probably a leveling system, sort of like K-Dash. I thought now. Granted, K-Dash was well after this, but I mean, ideally, I understand what you're saying. This is an old game. They were playing what they were playing the hand they were dealt with with what they had to work with.
Because I mean, like, you're not just going to. Otherwise, you end up with Zool, where stuff is just laying around everywhere.
Well, it doesn't have to be that bad, but hey, listen, you got to understand and this is conditioning for me. I came off the PC where stuff was a little more involved than this, and so I wasn't really playing these kind of games at the time. It's funny, I've played more Castlevania this week than I've ever played combined, and I even played a little bit on the NES, and I enjoyed it more than I ever did before. For one thing, the NES version is even easier than this one because I can control my guy. Mm-hmm. We'll get to that in a minute, but for full disclosure, I was never a big fan of this series. Now, as it went on, I haven't played the newer ones, and they are probably pretty awesome.
Have you played any of the other Castlevania
I have not.
games?
I've never played a single other one. So, so I'm not condemning the series or any of that stuff. And I like the music from several, Symphony of the Night, I think that's got tremendous tunes. I've listened to the soundtracks of a bunch of them, but I've never played them. So, like Bode said, you go through, I think there's 6 levels, aren't there? And at the end you fight Dracula, not to spoil it. And he has a couple of different forms. I think he's 2 forms or 3 forms. I can't remember. There's the Dracula where he opens his cape and shoots stuff. Then there's that weird monster he turns into, and then you win, right? That's the last guy. So, that much said, it's your basic run to the right or run to the left. Go up and down stairs and shoot stuff. The atmosphere is cool. Again, keeping in mind this was ported over from an 8-bit NES to a certain degree. For an NES, if I saw this screen on an NES, I'd be like, "Hey, that looks pretty good." To see this screen on an Amiga is horrible. When you can say, "Hey, that's comparable to the NES version," not good.
Right.
Not good.
Right.
And that's
so we'll look at the NES version actually.
That's my first gripe. This looks as 8-bit as you can get. It doesn't look that good. Secondly, this thing has individual tunes for each level. Okay, they aren't very good either. I mean, the tunes themselves probably are okay, but the actual implementation of the tunes on the Amiga, subpar. I mean, you consider. I just listened to a bunch of stuff from Shadow of Beast this week, and it's the same system. They had the exact same stuff. It's inexcusable to have this kind of crummy sound. This is like ad-lib level sound, not good. So there's that. But I can forgive both those things, all right? Because inside there's an interesting game, and it's like I said, the theme is cool. But there's one sin that this game commits that is unforgivable, and that is the controls. This thing is a hot mess when it comes to controlling Simon here.
And it's difficult if you're watching at home and you're watching this long play that we have going on here. It's difficult for you because this guy is obviously an expert at this game and he's making it look easy. but this game does not control nearly as well as he's making it look.
He has trouble turning. He has trouble moving up and down stairs is difficult. The fact that it's funny. The one thing I thought, man, this is gonna be a real tough thing to get around is, on the NES version, you've got that second button to throw your other weapon, and I thought, man, that's gonna be a real hassle. That wasn't that big a deal to me. Holding the button down a little longer, that worked fine. It's just the fact of moving.
Right. Such a large part of this game is negotiating stairs as you move throughout the castle. And you have to be totally lined up with those stairs or you'll jump instead.
Yes, and that is a real hassle. Another thing I don't like is the enemies. They come out in bunches, and it's one of those games where if you leave the screen for a split second, they're coming right back at you, a big horde of them, and it's a real pain in the butt. I noticed the DOS version did the same thing. You'll have so much stuff on your tail, and if you stop, it's what gets you in trouble is when you have enemies on both sides of you, right? I was going to ask if we had the same problem.
Yeah, and that's true. To be fair, that's true in the NES game too.
Really?
Yeah.
Any way it goes, turning to the other side is a chore, and it shouldn't be. And I think it's magnified in the Amiga version because of the jump situation.
Right. Well, it's comparable to Kung Fu or Karate Master, where you've got the legions of guys, and then you turn around and there's a bunch of them, and they're right on top of you.
It's funny. I just played that this week. It's funny you should mention that. And I will say, and you're right. Although that one you can spin quicker than you can. I played on the arcade machine with the arcade controls, granted, but I tried all kinds of crazy stuff to have better control on this. I played with the keyboard, believe it or not, and this has keyboard support. I played with a couple different joysticks. I played the gamepad, and nothing gave me any sort of nothing worked to make it better. He just is a slow. He also is goofy looking. Don't you think he looks goofier than any other version.
Yeah, he looks pretty darn goofy in this one.
He walks weird.
He walks strangely. He's not really like the jump animation is right out of Huckleberry Hound, where there's no bending of the knees.
Something else. If you look, I looked at the C64 version of this, and the C64 version doesn't look as nice, but it looks so much better. Right,
and that's the thing. If we switch over and look at the NES game, it doesn't. The sprite is not as detailed, but overall, I think the game looks better. The way it uses colors. And the way that of course, the sprite is animated much better. Now, this game is not going to win any awards for fluid animation on any platform. He's always kind of awkward when he walks. When he jumps, it's
every
weird.
Version he gets almost hunchy looking.
Yeah.
What really gets me, you can get past a lot of this stuff, and like you said, the other versions aren't as attractive. But if they just look better to play, and they are better in the case of the NES. I didn't get to try the other ones, but I tried that one. Even the PC, he didn't look as lumbery or as tough to control as he does on the Amiga version. Plus, I'll tell you something else about the Amiga version. It's dropping frames like they're going out of style. Why? How is this possible?
Right.
This is the freaking Amiga. We can't freaking run this 8-bit, like, a little dinky game. Are you kidding me? That's inexcusable. And so what that tells me is this probably was a rush job. I don't know when exactly. I don't think I've got the month it came out. I know it came out in 90, but I'm wondering if it's one of those deals where they're like, we need to get this out now to capitalize on such and such. It didn't happen. And you'll notice that no other Castlevania games came out on the Amiga, and I'm wondering, and I'll get into this later in terms of availability, but I'm guessing this didn't do well. And you would think, I know you would know better than me, but when Castlevania came out in NES, I know it was a big hit, but it was pretty much a big hit instantly, right? It's not like it took years to develop a following or anything.
Oh, yeah, and this came out, what year did this come out on the Amiga?
1990.
Okay, so this was already a 3-year-old game.
Right. It came out several years previous on the NES.
In fact, I want to say that there were already 3 Castlevanias on the NES by the time the first one came out on the Amiga.
That's probably another reason it didn't sell well, because if you're porting all this stuff, now I know the NES wasn't a big deal in the UK or in Europe in general, but still, by the time this comes out and they're on the third one, you're feeling like you're getting left behind, right? So this game, I will say, I did look through the music library on it to see what all it had, and it's got different tunes for every stage. It's got tuned, for the little kind of few cutscenes it has. It doesn't have cutscenes, just like stuff that happens when people die.
Yeah,
or
the
whatever.
music on this game is fine, but it is not based any way on the NES music. It's a totally different soundtrack.
Now, I went to a couple different websites, including a Castlevania wiki. Okay, so having not played the NES enough to know, I'll just say this. From what they said, these tunes were based on the NES version, but they were many of them were put in out of order.
Oh,
so the stages were different.
Okay, I take it back.
You could be completely right, but this is what I read that the music was different in different places than it was in the original.
Because I mean that first stage Castlevania music. Let me just play a little bit of it for our fans. This is immediately recognizable. Like, this is one of the great tunes in the NES library, and that is not present on the Amiga version. So maybe you do see this later on.
Yeah, I was underwhelmed, to say the least, with the music. Make sure you mute that when you're done.
I did.
So again, this would be the last. This would be the last version of Castlevania that the Amiga would get. Amazingly, there are a few things that make me wonder if this game got a very wide release. And I don't think it was released at all in the U.S., okay? But that's just a hunch, okay? So, number one hint that makes me think didn't have a wide release, I could only find one review for it, and I looked all over to try to find more. And I'm talking, I don't mean like reviews like on the guys from Lemon, although it got killed on there. Like, I think I got 3.63. It only had one magazine review that I could find. That was in Joystick magazine in '91. It got an 81%.
No Amiga Joker?
No, that's it.
Wow.
That's all. So that tells you right there that this thing didn't get reviewed well. So either they didn't, but these magazines, they were reviewing anything at one point, but this didn't get hardly any reviews. So the release on this thing must have been real low. And then secondly, every week I go through and get you eBay prices. This has not appeared on eBay at all. I could not find any copies. I found copies for the C64, but there were no Amiga copies at all that I could find.
Wow.
And I even looked at the completed auctions. There's nothing. So what that tells me is if you've got a copy of this, you're probably sitting pretty. I did find, this is funny, as I'm looking I was like, okay, I can't find anything on eBay. Let me see if anyone's selling these independently. And I found a guy on the English Amiga forums from 2010. Okay, keep this in mind. He was offering $120 for a copy of this or Blades of Steel or something else. For one copy, and he got 0 responses. Now you know how these boards are. For that kind of money, people would sell just about anything, and he got no response, and he checked back for a year. So I'm guessing that this is a very, very rare game. I even had trouble finding box art. I found out, of course, it was on Hall of Light after I went and looked, but I was just like, usually I'll just Google it, and finding the one that said Amiga on it was real tough to find. So what that tells me is it was released to somebody, but I don't know who. I don't know when, and I don't know where, and I don't know how well it did. I'm guessing not well. We've done a lot of games from this show, and I can count the ones that I couldn't find any eBay on one, probably on 3 or 4 fingers. Not even a whole hand would do it. It's very, very unusual for them to not have a copy. A few other things I noticed on it. The ending's different. I actually played. I did find. Did you find a cheat for this? Did you find anything you could use a trainer when you played it? No. I found one.
I'm just looking at this. When you beat the game, it says Hall of Blame.
Yeah, I saw that. So when this game on the NES, right? When you beat the game, it does several things that I think are really cool. Right, first, you beat Dracula, and then it zooms out and it shows like the castle you were in, and it goes, it starts crashing to the ground slowly but surely, and all eventually like it sort of caves in on itself, right? And a very neat scene. I like that. And
is it this scene we're about to watch presently?
No.
The game is restarted.
So I'm going to talk about this guy too. So and then after it does that, it shows you credits, and these credits are all like old movie monster actors. You've got Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney. All the credits are these old actors, which I thought it was very cute. In fact, I remember hearing about this a long time ago and thinking that's kind of neat, you know. And the Amiga version, lightning just strikes where the thing was and it just goes away. Much lamer than the actual falling down of the castle. And then it goes right to that Hall the Hall of Fame, except it's called the Hall of Blame.
Right.
Which I don't know what is that? Why would you even break that? Hall of Blame.
It's on you for buying this thing.
Yeah, no kidding. So I thought that was pretty lame. And then one other thing I wanted to point out is on the and maybe this is on the NES. You explain this to me. On the opening screen of this, it shows the castle. It shows Belmont and out there and everything, and then it shows this like a scroll. A guy appears, a fat fairy, all right, and then he has a wand or something. He goes burn, and then it shows the guys that did the conversion, which is where I got their names. What's the deal with the fat fairy?
Okay.
Is he on any other version?
No.
Because I thought to myself, what is this? This doesn't make any sense at all here.
So Konami's games on the NES all look the same. They're early games. There's none of this. There's none of this fat fairy nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, what is and here he comes if you're watching the video. Who is this guy?
Yeah,
it's a fat guy, and he just kind of waves a wand, and then this thing unfurls very crumbly.
Now this is how the NES version starts.
It looks poor, don't you think? And again, the inclusion of this fat fairy at the beginning, it takes the game down a peg right out the gate.
So the NES version it looks like a movie basically.
That's right.
Got film stock and everything.
I have seen that. It looks so much better.
Yeah. And then when you push start, you get this really cool sequence of going into the castle and everything.
And if you look at the Amiga version, the castle is more colorful, but it's not nearly as cool looking, in my opinion. It looks. Yeah, it looks.
You also don't have any animation up here in the sky like you do in the NES version.
It's lazy.
Yeah.
It's all lazy. Yeah, I mean they took time to animate that fat fairy in the scroll. Thank God they put him in, but the rest of it's lazy. So not to beat a dead horse, but bad music, check. Bad visuals for the era of your computer, absolutely check. And something else we didn't mention: glitchy, flashing, frame rate dropping, crummy action, performance problems, check. Control problems, check. It checks every box to be a complete stinker. And I know if you've played this before, you're not. It's just no great revelation. But in my opinion, this game stinks. Vote.
Yeah. Well, the big secret about Castlevania is that Castlevania is not a great playing game on any platform. It does not control nearly as well as Mario or Metroid or Mega Man or any of those classic platformers that we associate with this time period. It's clunky, your character moves weird, the enemies spawn at crazy amounts. The jumping mechanic is insane. The precision jumping is hard. So Castlevania, even in its best form, I'm talking about Castlevania 1, is not an all-time great. The reason why it's remembered as such is because of the atmosphere and because for a lot of people it was one of the first NES games that they played.
Right.
The series really reached its apex on the PlayStation 1 actually in the Saturn, I think was actually released first with Symphony of the Night.
That's what I was.
That is an all-time. That's one of the greatest games of all time.
That's the one that you play back. You go through it, then you can play it inverted, then you can play with another character.
Yeah, it is. That is a fantastic game in every sense of the word.
Right.
Castlevania 2 is a totally different game. It's like Super Mario Brothers and Mario 2. Castlevania 2 is all role-playing. There's no score. It's a 2D role-playing game, one of the few out there. And you go through different places and you collect money and you upgrade your equipment and things like that. Castlevania 3 is like Castlevania 1 except longer, more difficult, and with additional characters. One neat thing about Castlevania 3 is that it's always one of the games when you buy like the multi-carts that the sound is always screwed up because that actually included a sound chip. That game included a sound chip which allowed you to have multiple different voices in the music.
I see. Yeah, it seems like I have heard that. Yeah.
So that's really the history of the 8-bit Castlevania games.
I would say if you're going to play this, and you want to play it on a Commodore, I would go with the C64 version because I haven't watched it, I haven't played it, but it's got a better rep and it looks a lot more playable. And really the graphics it's not like the graphics on this are getting great shakes.
Right.
Your guy's still a lumbering goofball, but at least on that you control. It's funny, some of these games I come across and people are like, the C64 version is better. And sometimes it is. I mean, sometimes it's amazing that you could botch something to that degree, but botch they have. And this one here was a big botch. So, as usual, keeping with our Halloween tradition, another fine, horrible game that we brought you. But, hey, it's got a cool box cover, and if you can find it, you're rich. You got that going for you.
Yeah.
And if anyone out here has it, drop us a line. I'd like to know who bought this and what you thought when you got it. It's one of those games you get at home, you're like, oh God,
Right.
You know, what a dud. So there you go, Castlevania. I wish I had better news. It's funny. I will say this about it. Like I said, I've never been a big Castlevania guy, but it got me kind of, I kind of dug it a little bit. I could get into it, and like I said, having played on NES, maybe I've mellowed a little bit in my old age, so maybe I can give this game another whirl. Maybe not. Maybe not right. Not this week. Anyway.
Not right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Aaron, I was going to do another little old computer quiz for you.
Okay.
I'm looking around here in this magazine. Okay, here's a good one.
All right.
Okay, because this is a little bit older machine, so you can see how cheaper. Because last week we were talking about 486s, right? And so they were still selling 386s. I'm sure that you still were using many a 386 throughout your daily life.
I never owned a 386.
Really?
No, I never did.
So, but anyway, they were still around. I used probably more 386s than any other 86 style machine. That was what they had in the schools at the time. This is a Hyundai computer, which I didn't even realize that Hyundai made computers that were sold in the United States. And it has an Intel processor. This is a 386SX 20 megahertz computer with an 80 meg hard drive with 2 meg RAM. Okay, it does have a coprocessor. No, it doesn't. It just has the socket.
Slot for a yeah.
And it's got one 3.5 and one 5 1/4 floppy drives. Anything else?
Monitor?
No monitor, but it does have a 16-bit VGA video card with 640 by 480.
Okay.
With 256K RAM. Comes with Microsoft Windows 3.1 and DOS 5. You want to take a guess at the price of this computer?
With no monitor, 386. I want to go with 4 1/4.
A little bit low. This is going for $629.
That's too much. That's way too much. But of course, it's a name brand. They're going to go a little higher than your clones. I mean, your super clones. Hyundai's a real company.
Yeah, that's true. I drive a Hyundai car.
There you go.
So anyway, that is our computer quiz for the week.
One thing I want to talk about before we wrap it up, we have decided to extend the Amigos challenge for one more week to get everyone one last chance to get in. I've gotten a good response so far. Finally, I was getting submissions this week. I was pleased. And we're going to go one more week, so that means we're going to finish the date. The end date for this will be a week from today, which, Bo, do you want to help me out here on what a week from today is? The 31st is Tuesday, so
it's like
first,
October,
second,
November
third.
4th or 3rd.
November 3rd will be the final day for the Amigos Challenge. Again, the Amigos Challenge this time around, Turrican 2, one man, one chance. Best score with one man, no cheating. And send me your video. The rules that we need are on the forums, and the forums are located at
forums.amigoseverything.org.
Really?
No. Everythingamiga.com/forums. I wasn't
now, why
expecting
would you tell them the wrong thing?
Because I wasn't expecting you to ask me to talk. I was disrobing.
Oh, God. You should never stand up in those. I personally apologize. I looked away. Thank God.
All right, Aaron, it's time. We're going back to the 90s for this one. I guess we go back to the 90s almost every week. My entire guitar repertoire consists of songs between like 1991 and 1996.
All right.
Except for when I did that awesome rendition of Steely Dan last week.
It was awesome.
Which you poo-pooed.
According to you.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm going to put my listening toque on here. Oh, no. Not this song. Oh, man. Oh, my.
See Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Alan Kebab, Graham Vipke, Brent Dowdy, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Hucker, Christopher Hassel, Tommy Humbert, Stan, Jonas Rulo, THT, Alan Kebab, Anthony Jarvis, Tapes from the Crib, Josh Nan, Will Williams, Adam Battersby, Chris Foles, Dreamcatcher, Lauren Giroux, Darren Coles, Ravi Abbott, Jason Watts, Pixel Dawn, yeah! Lane Vincent, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda, Neil Mansell, Adam Battersby, and Kjolbjorn Barman.
You really went up and got that one, didn't you?
I did. I always go up to get it.
Go up and put it back.
So,
Good God Almighty.
if you would like to have your name added to that illustrious list of musical genius,
You remember who sang that?
Blind Melon,
That's right.
Shannon
You
Hoon,
remember the video for
the
that?
late great, yeah, the B
Little
girl.
B girl. She was a big deal for a while.
She was. I wonder what she's doing right now.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe she's still in music or
Maybe
dance.
so.
I doubt it.
But I think that was really their only hit, right?
You know, nothing is more appalling to me than some glory hound goofball in a dumb outfit trying to get attention.
I can see why you'd say that. Next week, Aaron, we are going to take a look. You know what? I didn't even finish that thought.
You had a thought?
Listen, guys, Patreon. It's a thing.
Wait a minute. What's happening here? Oh, now it's go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Patreon.com/Amigos podcast. If you would like to support this show, if you would like to see more Amiga related talk, video, buffoonery, sombreros,
What?
whatever,
Are you mocking me?
help us out. $1 a month. It's cheap.
Or fitty?
Or 50, whichever you prefer, one or the other. Yeah. Also, Amigos shirts. If you go over to everythingamiga.com and click on the Clothe Yourself link there on the page, you can get one of these Amigos shirts, just like Daz.
When's my mime and puppet?
The Mime and Puppet
bar?
Show, or the Mime and Puppet
It's
Bar.
not a show. Can you imagine that show? Gee.
The Mime and Puppet Bar shirt is coming soon. I am in negotiations.
I thought we were going to actually
With,
start the restaurant.
Oh,
There's a shirt too.
well, we could do both.
Do you do any mime or puppetry?
I do a little of both.
Really? Can we see a little something?
I'm not prepared.
Can you do a little mime right now?
I got this one. You ready?
Yeah.
You like that?
I don't.
That's getting into a car.
That's really?
Yeah.
Wow. I'd stick with puppetry then, sir.
Okay. Well, you'll see a little puppetry next week. But yeah, I don't even know.
But yeah,
I don't even know what
man,
we're
this
talking
show
about
slid
anymore.
off the cliff, didn't it?
My pants are coming off. They're not really
No.
pants. They're not really. Now they look like some sort of like genie pants. I don't know.
That's not what they look
It's
like.
getting weird in here. Anyway, next week, Aaron, we're gonna do another Amiga game.
Well, no, you don't know what we're doing, do you?
I do.
You're panicking, trying to figure it out.
I knew you'd say that. We're gonna do WizKid. Okay, WizKid we played on the Amigathon, and it is so crazy. It is so out there
That is a weird game.
that I couldn't believe it. And so we're gonna take an in-depth look. It's weird what you're doing with that mask.
Well,
right
he
now.
can't puppet this guy.
You can't.
Hi,
puppet.
how are you?
You can't puppet a luchador.
No, you don't. That's
He
almost
puppets you.
insulting. That's
Yeah.
true. What are we doing? WizKid?
WizKid.
I thought it was WizBall. Yeah, WizKid. WizBall too.
That's right.
I got
That's
you.
right. So until then, make sure you keep checking out us on Facebook.
And happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. We're going to put up a special Halloween video of Aaron's Halloween party.
Also, happy orange and black Spirit Day, if that's your bag.
Okay. And also,
Oh, yeah, video of my party.
yeah.
It was a happening.
We'll have a video of your party that goes up. Make sure you keep following us on YouTube at Amigos Retrogaming. We're going to have a bunch of new content coming out continuously. And if you have any questions, drop us a line at amigospodcast.com. All right, Aaron, let's take this thing out. We'll see you guys next week. Adios. It's always the G
Like
string.
it matters. Oh, yeah. Oh, the G string. I like it.
Duncan Styles, 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 Duncan Styles. Duncan Styles. Duncan Styles. Yeah.
Nice. Now that's pretty good right there, I think.